Hey guys, and welcome to the next tutorial in our little series here that we have on our first person shooter game. Now today we're going to be finishing up a little bit of a few little scripts to make life easier when we go to do our weapons. Now, to let you guys know and everything else, I will probably have some new stuff coming out and some other stuff. So let me know what you think of the content and things, comments, of the sort. So today we are going to talk about some utility functions and maybe some error corrections. You probably didn't do what I did, so you probably won't have the problem like I did, if that makes sense. But anyway, we're going to do some little functions that will make it a lot easier. Now, I have a few written functions and I've moved some variables away from certain scripts and into others to make it easier and, to generalize when we make other weapons and other variations, we can use it. Because, well, for the most part, a lot of times in a game, we're writing multiple functions or we're trying to get a single script to do everything, and that doesn't work. So we came out with inheritance where we can override functions and stuff, but that isn't just enough. So I came up with a nice little code base to write functions into an inherited script so that we don't have to write these things multiple times. And this is one of the scripts that we have, which is war MonoBehaviors. This is my version of a MonoBehavior for first-person shooters, things like that. Simple stuff like ray casting and things. This is weapon set. And then in the sorted thing, you may not have it, but I have the weapon transform dot direction. Okay, weapon T. This actually should not be called this anymore. I believe right here. This actually should be called camera trans. Okay? The reason why I'm calling this is because I've got a new variable in my weapon class where I want the camera transform. Okay? Because the reason why is wherever my little camera, my main camera, is facing, that's the direction that I want the camera to go into. I don't care about the little tired or our actual weapon itself. I want the direction that we're looking, or our actual look direction, okay, which is the camera transform. Now, in the beginning, we would probably do camera.main since we only got one main camera and stuff, but that's a whole nother story. Now, in our thing, I made a new variable in here. This is a string taggy. I thought it was a cute little name, and I added the overload here, taggy here, because I want to do find object of type, and I want this to be a string here. Because, well, the reason why is because I have this here, this tag variable, which is nothing but string. It comes from hit.transform.tag, okay? And I had multiple hit.transform.tags in here. I have taggy, one right here, and I return this variable up here, okay? So I would have hit.transform.tag here, and then a couple down here, and I'm like, this kind of stinks. Why in the world would I want this here like this? Okay? So I converted over to string to streamline all this, because it's getting set here, so we can just pass it into here. We don't have to call the engine version of it and find the tag again like 3 or 4 times, you know, just multiple times. That just sounds like a waste of time. And I also changed the hit point to the vector 3 because we're setting it here. There's no sense in getting the same thing, hit dot point right here again. I just pass the vector 3 in, boom, there we go. And then closest hit, well, guess what? If we've ever made it to here, then the closest hit is going to be transform our little temporary game object, transform.parent equals closest. This will parent our bullet hole to what we need to go. Now, here's another one. This is a single array where we don't have any sorting or anything like that. So this method would be used if we have our player masked out in the layer mask so it doesn't hit him, which a lot of times if you're not doing any multiplayer or something that's using a lot of raycast with you know, where you just mask out certain objects. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's just used for masking, and then whatever you want this ray to hit, it'll do it. We have range, we have take damage, which takes a damage variable, and it's pretty much the same. We've got our hit point, but we do a single ray, and then we set everything to that, which the mask will take care of the hit stuff anyway. So automatically we will instantiate our temporary bullet, which actually should be considered a bullet hole. Yeah, bullet hole, temporary bullet hole. Or should it? Yeah, it would be a temporary bullet hole. That's kind of dumb. But that's okay. That's okay. I'll look at that later. And we still have our tag weapon, and then our tag weapon does what it needs to do here. Now this case-based thing is based on a string anyway, so any one of these you could put your own functions in there and yada yada yada. Very easy, very simple. I don't want this to be super long anyway. Now we have a public virtual muzzle flash mesh. This is a mesh version. We do the transform, which is our muzzle thing, and then we give it a vector 3. Okay, which before we get to here, we would, you know, randomize our vector or whatever we're going to do with the vector, you know, turn it and stuff. And what this will do is take our local Euler angles, which is the rotation. We pull out a vector, a brand new vector, and then we randomize it between, I found the variables, let's embiggen this. My eyes are starting to hurt because it's so small. To 0.3, 0.03 F, and 1 F. Okay. This is a single float, not a new vector 3 or anything like that. But then we go to the scale, and we throw this randomization into all 3 vectors. And this will give us our little pulsing like function, okay? This is solely for the values for the scale. Now, since this is set when it gets to this point, we pass it into the local scale. Okay, so this is for the rotation, and all this is to scale it randomly. Okay, it puts it in all three. Now, if you didn't want it in all three and you just want it on a single one or just two, all you have to do is put a 0 here, or 1, or however you want to do it. Okay, it's just a normal vector 3. You can go into the inspector and it's the matching vector in the scale. So if you don't want it to scale in a certain way, all you'd have to do is put 1 right here, and there you go, instead of this random number. It's kind of okay. I like this method. It's kind of simple. Okay, now I have a muzzle flash particle system one. Okay, this takes a light plus a particle system dot play. So you'll have to pass in a light in that, and what it just does is it tells the particle system, hey, play. Okay, and enable the light, because the reason why I do it this way is I want to make sure the light's on, because a lot of times you have to put a light with the particle system unless you do a mesh on your muzzle, you know, the end of your gun that has an emissive texture where it illuminates, you know, it's got lighting with the material. You want to do something like that, you go right on ahead. It's kind of, I think it's kind of a waste in a way to do something like that, but you could if you wanted to. Particle systems are nice. They're pretty cheap, but in some cases, particle systems, you can hit a particle limit. Okay? They are very well known for hitting your frame rates. They slow your frame rate down, okay, if you have too much. So that's one reason why a lot of people will use a full screen effect to do a particle or something like that than to use the actual particle system. Because the full screen effect, you know, post-processing is a lot cheaper, I guess, than to use a particle to do everything. But, you know, it comes down to whatever your game needs. I mean, you may have 0 post-processing effects on your thing, like bloom or anything like that. If you don't have anything, then it would be really cheap for you because you don't have anything in that area, which you don't have to. Just, you know, it's something to think about. The whole goal of the tutorial is to make you think outside the box, outside of your comfort zone. Okay, so tag weapon we've done, bullet hole we've done, basic kick done. Ooh, this is another function that I created. Okay, this can fire takes all these variables right here. Okay, a lot of times in your weapon system you'll have if shooting equals true, like bullets, if input get button down is true, walking equals true, reloading equals false, and your weapon ammo is above 0, I return true. So shooting in that script will be turned on to true, and we'll start shooting bullets. If it doesn't evaluate to true, it automatically goes to false. So I call this function in the update, and it sits there and keeps evaluating this. It's the same thing as just writing it out, but the thing about it is, with me putting into a simple function like this that every script inherits from, all I got to do is use this function to do my evaluations. Okay, so I don't have to write this more than once. This is done. Okay, I never have to write this again. I just call this function. Unless I want something completely different, then this function becomes obsolete. or I just rewrite something and add something else into the evaluation for true. Okay? Because if you've ever done a weapon system, you know this right here is very familiar. So let's take a look at this weapon system now. Okay? Our weapon system now is right here. I got weapon sway, a key, an override controller, an audio source, which we'll get to, and a new variable for camera trans. Okay, which just gets set in the start of camera.main. But you'll see that muzzle flash, aim, weapon T, walking, all these things are just to set the defaults, behaviors, and stuff. This Bob thing is new. You haven't seen that yet, but that's okay. Now we have this close. This is a close equals rangefinder. We throw the variable in there, close, weapon T, and current position. And you're like, rangefinder? Where do you get that? Well, my friends, this is the changes that I made. War utility mono. This is an abstract class to do all those little tiny things. It used to be vector3.distance there. Then I made it into this function because, well, it's okay to do this and everything else, but I find that if I take this and write it out like this, because I'm going to have to need this for every single weapon. Okay? Because we're using it to find out how close we are to the current position, which is set by our aim function. When I push the button to aim, it changes the current position to the aim position, right? When I let go of the button, it changes our current position to our idle position, our hit position. So I would have to write this over and over again. Instead of doing this over and over again, I put rangefinder and I just throw all the variables that it needs into the overload or the parameters or whatever you want to call it. And I have this do it for me. Okay, return a float. I don't have to do any calculations or nothing. So in one of my weapons, if this is messing up, I don't have to worry about it because all weapons will mess up because I'll be using this for every weapon. Okay, so if no weapons mess up, then we know this is good. We know we can move on. Now this PlayAudio. When it comes to audio sources and other stuff, they don't really have certain functions. Okay, so I wanted an audio source so I could tell what source to do. Play on awake, I wanted that to be set. Is looping, play delay, and what clip. This is not a regular function for Unity, okay, but I wrote it out and just have it do what I want, okay? Because this works exactly the way I need it to. This works for a machine gun. So if it works for a machine gun, it's going to work for almost every single gun we got in the game. Now, I still have to call this, but instead of writing all this code right here, I'll have a single line in my weapon. And I'll show you what I mean by this. You have set weapon, and look at this. Shooting equals this. Now I got this little if statement, and there you go. So we got an awesome array sorted right here. Then we have a new vector 3. Our muzzle thing, since we're firing, we need to turn this on, right? Our rotation .z, we're going to randomize it through 0 to 99. And then we got this muzzle flash mesh. And then we do muzzle point, which is our game object, and we throw a rotation in there, which is the rod, which is the vector 3. And we let our function from war MonoBehavior do the work for us. Okay? It does all the work for us. Instead of having this in our script, we have something clean like this. Okay? Now here's PlayAudio, which requires a source and a clip. This is not the function, okay, that is being called from war MonoBehavior. Okay? Let's size this, 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 and this isn't useful for us. This isn't useful. Kick back, no. We've discussed this. So where's the audio thing? Ooh, did I put it in utilities? War utilities. Yep, this is that one. Okay? So it's not this one that's being called, which is fine. This is where I changed weapon actions. I used to have these firing, okay, shooting equals campfire, shots, walking. This is where I call that function to set shooting to true or false. Okay, I moved all the variables away from the weapon class out of my rifle. They used to be up here. Well, I'm always going to have these variables in every single gun. Okay, there is always going to be a reloading, a shooting, ammo, walking. You know, if I'm walking or running, changing weapons, aiming. I mean, come on, they're basic variables I'm going to have. So I have them in this script now. Now this PlayAudio, virtual void, this override, this can be overwritten. And the beauty about this is this exists in all weapons. But if we get a specialty weapon, a weapon that this doesn't work to, we can override this and change what's being called here. Like in my rifle 308, all I'd have to do is go over here, what do we call it in weapon option? PlayAudio. Okay. Not that one. We go public. Override. PlayAudio. And there we go. We have an overriding method here. And we can put blah here. It doesn't matter. Okay? It doesn't matter whatsoever. But the thing about this is, in our utility class, we have this right here. In our weapon actions, the only reason we would have to override this is if we wanted more time on here, a delay, or something. Something's true when it needs to be true, and that's it. The reason why I put this in weapon actions for the most part is because this PlayAudio, if this works for a machine gun, it's going to work for a handgun, it's going to work for a sniper rifle. Because the audio source itself, the only reason why you usually have problems is if the audio works too fast and they're overlapping. Okay, they don't sound right. It's like 5 or 6 of the same things playing at the same time, which is no good. But if you get it where it works in a machine gun, just like this, then all your other weapons, like your handgun and stuff like that, when they go to PlayAudio, it's going to work fine. And that's my whole point of it. If it's going to play fine like that, then, just leave this in here, okay? And just call PlayAudio and give it the source and a clip, and that's it. perfectly great function. You know, and we got virtual override Bob and Sarah here. This is here because every weapon is going to have a Bob or a Sarah thing on there or something. Okay? Because I'm going to put these might be character names. I can name these something else. But when we do our weapons, what I plan on doing is this is what's going to initialize our weapon kind of logic. Bob, he's going to be like a heavy gunner or something like that. But when he does a 308, he's only got one selectable state, okay? Which could be a single shot. But he gets extreme amounts of damage. So he does all this, and we do the listener, so we hook up our delegate for when we're shooting. But Sarah has extra abilities. See how this fire logic has another digit? She gets the same thing, but she's got other stuff. So this could be a rocket launcher. She has the single shot that's powerful, but she also has a grenade launcher or a rocket launcher on it. And then you're like, whoa, that's really cool because, you know, that gives us variety. So when we go to our slot class, you know, what spawns weapons into the world, we can call Sarah or Bob. Okay? And these have to be overridable methods because of the way weapon actions work. See, we put it in a virtual. I don't want these other variables to exist yet. Okay? The state for fire logic right here only exists in this script. Okay? So if I want this weapon to never be able to do anything but shoot a single shot like a sniper rifle, then I just had no fire logic and write it straight into like a normal, just call raycast sword or something. That's the reason why I have that here. This right here won't be here later. But like, where is it? There's muzzle, there's that for aiming, there's a reload clip next to it. Okay, here's the fire logic. Okay, fire logic, and then we got weapon select mode. And see how this current state equals war clamp, current state, and then state.length? This is just a function to do this. Current length plus 1 divided by length. So it just goes 1 and then 2, then 3, then 4, and then, oh, guess what? We only have 4. So then it loops back around to 0. Okay? And then we don't have to do any of that other stuff. I mean, this isn't really a hard line right here, but it would be easy to mess up and put plus equals here, or plus plus 1, or something of that sort, or not divide but times by length, and then have something really messed up in your game. So when we do things like this, we're just throwing the overloads in there and letting that function do its job. Because if we do it that way, then there's less chances when we're writing code into our weapons in itself, when we get to this state, that we're going to make a mistake. Because, oh, it's just going to be these that we make a mistake from, or we get a compiler error, and then it won't start or do anything like that ever again till we fix the error. Which makes it kind of nice. Kind of nice. So we got audio, and then I've got a refactor, a little bit of calling range, camera, and then float range, If it's not above 31, then call, you know, it returns here. Make sure you have it returned so it doesn't do this stuff. But I think that's all we really need there. And then I have this object, game object set, which is just an object, and then set active. Tells the bool to do what it needs to do. And the reason why I did it that way is just simple. Just to make sure that I just throw it in there. And then I have another variation of it which takes an array. Because a lot of times when you're disabling a bunch of game objects, they're either an array or a list. And all I really want to do is disable the game objects. So what I do most of the time is a for loop, and then set all of them to disable. Okay, but I'm using this bool to tell it to do what it needs to do, like true or false. So I just basically push all the stuff to this function and have it do it. And this will make it a lot easier because I could do it in one line of code. And I like it that way. I hate stuff. This is for lighting, just to enable it and disable it without going enable, blah, this, blah. It may seem a lot more readable. I think that's the reason why I made it. Because a lot of times you'll go set active. If you're anything like me, you'll forget like components, like scripts and stuff. Those are enabled and disabled. But game objects are set active. Okay? So a lot of times I'll forget which is which. I'll get them confused. Then the next thing I notice, I'm like, oh, there's an error. Why? This looks fine. Why? And then, oh, look, I did something silly. Durr. And then I just feel like a complete fool. So those are those scripts, and I think I pretty much went through all the stuff that I really wanted to hit. Because here's the thing. If you look at this script, okay, this isn't really a big script. Okay, you have your start method. Usually your start methods are probably more than that. Okay, you got your PlayAudio thing that's override, but we can delete that. We don't need that there because that was just an example of how you can override it. We did this close weapon. That's not so much. And then we got this update. Changing weapons, true. Then we have our little single line code here, not this crazy vector3.distance stuff. If closest is greater than 0 or equal. If it's greater, then we do set weapon position. Later on, we could do rotation as well, so this could go a lot more. But it's like I said, we'll write it into the game if we need it. Then shooting equals, hey, guess what? Here's that can fire function. And when it gets down to here, it's either true or false, and it does the stop, which is nice. And if the fire time is greater than 0, we just have it decrease, which is also nice. Then we have our sway update. We have our raycast function that we call from our delegate, right here, state.currentState.invoke. We're invoking the delegate. We do ray sorted, which you know what that does. Then we do our muzzle stuff. And then we play audio. And if you wanted to do the mass version of it, All you do is ray mask, camera transform, range, the weapon layer, and new damage. That's all you'd have to do to call that. And instead of this function right here. Very simple. Then we have our vectors for the hit position and stuff. Our aiming function, which hasn't changed. We have an audio clip for a reload, which we haven't done the reload logic yet, but that is coming. Here's our delegates for invoking and stuff. And to switch weapon states if we have one. Here's the function that's going to be used to increase the current state, you know, what weapon state you're in, if you're an automatic, single shot, grenade launcher, or bullets, or whatever the heck you have in your game that you decide to code it into. Then we have Bob, which sets weapon state stuff. Now, this right here could be used to hard code a lot of information into this class, specifically for Bob, okay? That's the beauty of that, okay? Because he sets up what weapon states we have, damage stuff that we have, you know, all that stuff, okay? And this could be specific for Bob, okay? This is kind of like one of those icings on the cake thing. So you can customize it through code. Some people like it that way. Some people do not. Some people like the inspector better. You know, that's totally up to you. You can use Unity events and then fill this information in from another class and then push it to this class. Not my forte, but hey, whatever floats your boat. Because we could touch on Unity events and how to do that, but there's a lot of stuff Unity events doesn't do by default. It won't let you do certain things with vector 3s, I don't think it'll let you. How long has this video been going? Oh, yep, way over the limit, about 7 minutes. So Sarah does pretty much the same thing. And this video has gone on long enough. Because if I make it any longer, you guys will probably not like it. So this is Wardon over and out, and thank you very much for watching. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And peace out, guys, and have a good night.